Section 1 Introduction. We're here to introduce our work on large language models, LLMs, which are becoming increasingly advanced and capable of producing meaningful text. However, these models still have a tendency to produce incorrect or incoherent outputs. To address this, we've been exploring ways to continuously critique and refine the outputs of these models, making them more reliable. LLMs have been used to generate feedback to improve their own outputs. Some researchers have used instruction prompting to generate a multifaceted evaluation score of the text produced by the model, while others have trained utility functions to provide feedback on tasks involving information-seeking dialogues. A recent study even trained an LLM to generate self-feedback on its responses. However, this approach didn't provide feedback on complex tasks like math and reasoning, only offering generic feedback on the output response. In our research, we introduce a model we've named Shepherd, which is specifically designed to critique the outputs generated by models. Our aim is to create a robust critique model that can provide feedback across a wide range of domains. When asked to refine an output, Shepherd can identify specific issues like factual errors, logical mistakes, coherence, and alignment, and suggest improvements. Shepherd can provide feedback that goes beyond general suggestions and can offer deep domain knowledge with actionable ideas for refinement. To fine-tune and evaluate Shepherd, we created a high-quality feedback dataset composed of two distinct sets: community feedback, which we gathered from online forums to capture a wide range of interactions, and human annotated feedback, which we collected from different types of tasks. Shepherd, trained on a combination of these datasets, showed impressive results, outperforming other models like ChatGPT on multiple tasks. We found that community feedback was more informative and diverse than human annotated feedback, but it tended to be more informal. Including high-quality human annotated data for fine-tuning improved Shepherd's performance. We evaluated Shepherd using both a model-based approach, using GPT-4, and human evaluation, comparing it against other models like Alpaca, Selfie, and ChatGPT. We found that Shepherd's critiques were generally preferred over those from other models. In conclusion, we've developed Shepherd, a new model capable of providing comprehensive critiques of any text generated by LLMs, which can significantly improve their quality. We've also created a high-quality feedback dataset, which could be a valuable resource for future research in this area. Section Summary. We introduced Shepherd, a language model specifically designed to critique and refine the outputs of large language models, LLMs. Unlike previous work, Shepherd can provide feedback on a wide range of domains and pinpoint specific issues such as factuality, logical errors, coherence, and alignment. Trained on a combination of community feedback and human annotated data, Shepherd outperforms other models in downstream tasks, and its critiques are generally preferred by humans. Additionally, we create a high-quality feedback dataset that can facilitate future research in this area. Section 2 Data Collection. We've collected data for our study from two popular online platforms where people ask questions and get answers: Stack Exchange and the PushShift Reddit dataset. We view the main and subheadings of a post as the question, the initial responses as answers, and any subsequent replies as critiques. Each of these elements comes with a community vote score, which is the total number of up votes minus the total number of down votes. To keep things simple, we'll refer to these as the question score, answer score, and critique score. Stack Exchange is a network of 173 specialized question and answer communities, including the well-known Stack Overflow. It's a place where experts share their knowledge in a Q&A format. For now, we're only looking at content in English. Reddit, on the other hand, is a hugely popular website where users can share, discuss, and vote on content within their own communities, known as subreddits. At any given time, there are nearly 140,000 active subreddits. However, using Reddit data presents some challenges. Firstly, many subreddits are more about entertainment than serious discussion. Examples include r, funny, r, made me smile, and r, facepalm. Secondly, many posts are more about sharing information, like news or jokes, rather than asking specific questions. This makes them unsuitable for our study. To overcome these issues, we've chosen data from 16 specific subreddits from the PushShift Reddit dataset. These include r, Ask Academia, r, Ask Anthropology, r, Ask Baking, and others. These communities tend to have more formal discussions, often in a Q&A format. Section Summary. The data collection process involved gathering feedback data from two community question and answering websites, Stack Exchange and the PushShift Reddit dataset. The Stack Exchange data consisted of a network of 173 dedicated Q&A communities, while the PushShift Reddit data included nearly 140,000 active subreddits. However, There were challenges associated with fine-tuning a model on the push-shift Reddit data, such as a substantial proportion of subreddits being primarily for entertainment and many posts being intended to share information rather than posing specific questions. To address these limitations, data from 16 selected subreddits with more formal discussions and a Q&A format were chosen. Section 2.1.1 Critique Postprocessing. We're working on collecting sets of clean question-answer critique trios. After cleaning up the data from the community, we found that while it was relatively easy to get high-quality question and answer pairs, a lot of the data didn't have suitable critiques. We consider a critique to be valid in two situations. Firstly, when the answer is mostly correct, and the critique provides suggestions for further improvement or enhancement. Secondly, when the answer has errors, which the critique clearly points out. We use several methods to gather valid critiques from the community data. Initially, we remove invalid critique data, like joke sharing and follow-up questions that don't provide any feedback. We do this using two techniques. The first technique is keyword filtering. We keep examples that contain certain keywords that match the two cases mentioned above. For the first case, we look for keywords like, not wrong, agree, absolutely, indeed, agreed, exactly what I think, that's right, not what I think, you're right, you are right, that is right. For the second case, we look for keywords like, wrong, incorrect, not agree, not right, disagree, can't agree, beg to differ, that's not my view. The second technique involves looking at the user's edit history. Besides keyword filtering, we also collect critiques if users edit their answer after the critique has been posted. This helps us find examples where the critique has led to a change in the original answer. However, we also noticed that even critiques that are in the right format might be incorrect. For example, a critique might incorrectly challenge a true fact from an answer. To further refine our data and ensure the critiques are of high quality, we use additional filters linked with community vote scores. In the first case, where the answer is mostly correct, we ignore data where the answer score is less than 10 and the critique score is less than 2. This filter ensures we only select instances where the initial answer is largely approved by the community, and the critique has received some level of endorsement. In the second case, where the answer has errors, we focus on data where the critique score is higher than the answer score, and the critique score itself is more than 2. This selection process ensures we are considering instances where the critique, indicating an error in the initial answer, has received more community approval than the answer itself. Finally, we apply several more filters to further refine our dataset. 1. To ensure diversity, we keep only one instance per post, choosing the one with the highest critique score. 2. To handle offensive language in community data, we include a profanity check and remove any comments or feedback with a profanity score lower than 0.8. 3. Since our model is a text-only model, we filter out instances that contain URLs, images, or videos. 4. We identify and remove comments that ask further questions to the original question rather than the original answer to maintain the integrity of the question and answer format. Section Summary. In the process of gathering question-answer critique triads, we found that obtaining high-quality critiques was challenging. To curate valid critiques, we filtered out irrelevant data using keyword filtering and user edit history. We also incorporated additional filters based on community vote scores to ensure the accuracy and quality of the critiques. Lastly, we applied several more filters to refine the dataset, including retaining only one instance per post, eliminating offensive language, removing instances with URLs, images, or videos, and removing comments that posed additional questions instead of critiquing the original answer. Section. Public Dataset Selection. We've chosen a variety of public datasets to gather a wide range of natural language feedback. These datasets were selected for their complexity and the need for step-by-step explanations to reach the final answer. We've also included 2 summarization datasets. The 8 datasets we've chosen are Entailment Bank, which requires deductive reasoning, Proofwriter, which involves logical reasoning, GSM-8K, which demands arithmetic reasoning, PIQA, which needs physical reasoning, Cosmos QA and ECQA, both of which require common sense reasoning, ESMLY, which involves both deductive and common sense reasoning, and adversarial NLI, which requires adversarial entailment. For datasets like ESMLY and adversarial NLI, we only used prompts with a target label of entailment or contradiction. We excluded prompts labeled as neutral because they don't provide useful feedback for our critique model. For the summarization tasks, we selected 2 high-quality datasets, GPT-3 summarization and de facto. We only used data from the training sets for human annotation. To diversify our human data, we also included 1 or 2 examples from the training set of each of these datasets. SIQA, BoolQ, the challenge set and the easy set from ARC, the middle school set and the high school set from RACE, Hella Swag, Natural Question, Wino Grande, and Trivia QA. To gather high-quality natural language feedback, we provided a context, a correct output, and a candidate output for each question. We then asked annotators to provide feedback on any errors in the candidate output. The correct output was provided to help annotators identify errors more easily. Except for GPT-3. Summarization. Where we chose the summary most preferred by human raters, all datasets contain a gold answer to the question, which is the correct output. PIQA, Cosmos QA, and de facto have candidate outputs in the original datasets. For GPT-3 summarization, we chose the summary least preferred by human raters as the candidate output. For other datasets, to increase the chance of obtaining candidate outputs with reasonable errors, we prompted Llama 65B or Llama 30B with zero-shot or few-shot in context examples to obtain step-by-step reasoning sequences. We manually inspected the generated candidate outputs to ensure their quality. Examples from each dataset and the templates used to prompt Llama and Llama to obtain the candidate outputs are shown in the table. Section Summary. To ensure a diverse range of feedback, we selected 8 popular language understanding and entailment datasets, as well as 2 summarization datasets that require complex reasoning and have step-by-step explanations. For entailment datasets, we only used prompts with entailment or contradiction labels, as neutral examples were not useful for our critique model. To construct high-quality human annotation data, we provided a context, correct output, and candidate output for each question, asking annotators to identify errors in the candidate output. Section. Annotation Specifics. We chose to work with an independent vendor, RWS Moravia, for our annotation task. This decision was based on the complex nature of the task, which required detailed and nuanced annotations. Instead of using crowdsourcing, we opted for expert reviewers. Each example was annotated by one expert, with a quality check process involving human intervention. The cost per example quoted by RWS Moravia was 8. The annotators were native English speakers with strong writing skills and at least a high school education. We categorized different types of errors in our taxonomy, which is detailed in a table. More information about the annotation instructions and guidelines can be found in the appendix. To ensure the quality of our data, we carried out a post-processing step. We removed examples that were flagged as having errors in the correct output or being too complex to work on. We also discarded feedback on redundancy and consistency with context error types, as we found this feedback unhelpful. Our ultimate goal was to collect natural language feedback, so we combined feedback from different error types into a single paragraph using natural language connectors like firstly, secondly, and besides. This process resulted in a total of 1,317 high-quality examples. A table shows the distribution of these examples and the identified error types from each dataset used in human annotation. We trained our model, named Shepherd, using Llama 7B as the base model. For optimization, we used Atom W with Beta 1 set to 0.9, Beta 2 set to 0.95, and a weight decay of 0.1. We set the learning rate to 1E5, with 2,000 warm-up steps, and set the batch size to 64 and maximum sequence length to 2048. The training data was formatted using a template where we used field name to separate different fields. We saved checkpoints every 50 steps, for a total of 3,000 steps. We manually checked whether the generated feedback could identify errors or provide constructive suggestions on a set of 20 examples and selected the 3 best checkpoints. We then used the GPT-4 evaluation protocol to choose the best checkpoint from the held out set. Section Summary. The author selected an independent vendor, RWS Moravia, to annotate their examples using expert reviewers instead of crowdsourcing due to the complexity of the task. They conducted post-processing to ensure high-quality data by removing flagged examples and concatenating feedback from different error types into a paragraph. They trained the Shepherd model using Llama 7B as the base model and selected the best checkpoint based on manual inspection and the GPT-4 evaluation protocol. Section 4. Evaluating feedback. In Section 4, we assess the feedback capabilities of our model, Shepherd, by comparing it with leading language models such as Alpaca 7B, SELFEE 7B, and ChatGPT, GPT 3.5 Turbo. We use both human and automatic evaluations, with GPT-4 serving as the automatic evaluator. Our extensive testing across various tasks demonstrates that Shepherd can effectively critique and suggest improvements for model generations. It outperforms Alpaca and Selfie and is on par with ChatGPT. In subsection 4.1, we discuss the data used for evaluation. We chose 6 public datasets to ensure a wide range of natural language processing (NLP) domains are covered. These datasets are Alpaca Farm, Fair Eval, Common Sense QA, OBQA, PIQA, and Truthful QA. They encompass a variety of topics and reasoning skills, such as common sense reasoning, physical reasoning, and mathematical reasoning. We selected 50 instances from the validation or test set of each dataset, giving us a total of 300 instances for the final evaluation set. Additionally, we chose 20 instances from each dataset for our ablation studies. We also address the issue of data contamination, a topic that has been widely discussed in relation to ChatGPT and similar models. To avoid this in our evaluation, we created a new test set, Critic Eval, which includes 52 questions from the PushShift platform, posted between June 2022 and June 2023. We chose questions from the PushShift Reddit dataset that had the highest voting score. For each question, we collected the highest and lowest voted answers. The community vote score from the PushShift Reddit dataset is determined by subtracting the total number of down votes from the total number of up votes. In total, our evaluation data consists of 352 instances, sourced from both public datasets and the PushShift Reddit dataset. Section summary. The authors evaluate the performance of their model, Shepherd, in critiquing model generations by comparing it against state-of-the-art language models such as Alpaca 7b, SELFEE 7b, and ChatGPT. They conduct both human and automatic evaluations using GPT-4 as an evaluator and show that Shepherd outperforms Alpaca and Selfie while achieving competitive performance with ChatGPT. To ensure a broad coverage of NLP domains, they carefully select 6 public datasets for evaluation, resulting in a total of 300 instances. They also develop a new test set, Critic Eval, to prevent data contamination, which consists of 52 PushShift questions with high voting scores. Overall, their evaluation data includes 352 instances from public datasets and PushShift Reddit. Section 4.2 Baseline Models. In Section 4.2, we discuss the models we used as benchmarks for comparison with our model, Shepherd. These include ChatGPT, a highly advanced chatbot developed by OpenAI, and Alpaca 7b, a model based on Llama 7b and fine-tuned with data from ChatGPT. We chose Alpaca 7b because the specifics of the language model behind ChatGPT are not disclosed. Another model we used for comparison is Selfie, which is also based on Llama 7b but is specifically designed for self-feedback and self-revision. Selfie was trained using data from 5 different sources, all obtained from ChatGPT. We noticed some overlap between our evaluation data and Selfie's training data. In Section 4.3, we discuss how we used GPT-4 to evaluate the quality of the text generated by our model. We used GPT-4 to determine how well our model can critique answers produced by language learning models. In subsection 4.3.1, we asked GPT-4 to rate each piece of feedback on a scale of 1 to 7, primarily based on whether the feedback could identify errors in the answer or confirm the correctness of the answer when there were no errors. We gave GPT-4 specific instructions, which we chose through a process of manual inspection. This involved testing various instructions on a range of feedback examples and checking if GPT-4's grading matched human judgment. However, despite our careful selection of instructions, GPT-4's grading might not always align with human judgment. In subsection 4.3.2, we asked GPT-4 to choose the better feedback from 2 options. Instead of providing detailed instructions, we directly asked GPT-4 to select the better feedback based on its ability to identify errors when the response was incorrect or provide useful suggestions when the response was correct but could be improved. Section summary. In this section, we compare our model, Shepherd, against several state-of-the-art baselines including ChatGPT, Alpaca 7b, and Selfie. We evaluate the quality of model-generated text using GPT-4 by grading feedback on a Likert scale and conducting pairwise comparisons. Despite careful instruction selection, GPT-4 may still have misalignments with human judgment. Section 4.4 Human Evaluation. In Section 4.4, we discuss the human evaluation of our model. We believe that language models can sometimes be biased, so we also include human evaluators in our assessment process. This is similar to the evaluation process used for GPT-4. We ask each evaluator to rate the feedback on a scale of 1 to 7. To ensure a fair comparison, we present the question, answer, and feedback generated by different models to the evaluators at the same time. It's important to note that while GPT-4 rates each piece of feedback separately, we ask our human evaluators to compare multiple pieces of feedback and assign scores based on their comparison. This encourages the evaluators to rank multiple feedback for the same question-answer pair. Some of the questions in our evaluation data may require specific domain knowledge. Even though we have expert evaluators who can look up information online when needed, human evaluation is still a challenging task. For instance, some questions may require deep knowledge in medical or biology fields. In Section 5.1, we compare our model, Shepherd, with other models. We present the results of these comparisons in two figures, one using GPT-4 evaluation and the other using human evaluation. In both settings, Shepherd significantly outperforms Alpaca and consistently outperforms Selfie. It's worth noting that both Shepherd and Selfie are fine-tuned versions of the Llama 7B model. However, Selfie was fine-tuned using a dataset of 178,000 examples, some of which overlapped with our evaluation data, while Shepherd was fine-tuned using a smaller dataset of only 8,000 examples. We also found that Shepherd performs slightly better than ChatGPT according to the GPT-4 evaluation, and performs equally well in the human evaluation. We provide detailed comparison results for each task in two tables. The performance varies across tasks but overall aligns across the two evaluation settings. One key point to note is that Shepherd consistently generates better feedback on Critic Eval, a dataset that neither ChatGPT nor Llama models have seen before. This shows that our Shepherd model is not only good at critiquing but also at generalizing. We include some examples of this in a table. Section Summary. In order to address potential biases in language models, we conducted human evaluations where crowd workers compared and rated feedback generated by different models. Despite the challenges posed by the need for domain-specific knowledge, Shepherd consistently outperformed Alpaca and Selfie in terms of feedback quality. Additionally, Shepherd showed better performance than ChatGPT in the GPT-4 evaluation and demonstrated its ability to generate superior feedback on the Critic Eval dataset, showcasing its critique and generalization capabilities. Section 5.2 Score Distribution. In Section 5.2, we discuss the distribution of scores based on human evaluation. The figure shows that most of the feedback from Alpaca incorrectly assesses the given answer, earning a score of 2. Selfie, on the other hand, often provides unclear feedback or directly answers the question instead of offering critique, resulting in a score of 3. ChatGPT, in contrast, mostly provides accurate feedback, earning a score of 4. Shepherd, while providing more useful suggestions for improving the answer and thus earning more feedback with a score of 7, also tends to give incorrect feedback, resulting in a higher number of feedback with a score of 2. In Section 5.3, we present the results using Likert scores annotated by GPT-4 and human annotators. When comparing the pairwise evaluation by GPT-4, we find that the Likert score evaluation by GPT-4 is less reliable for several reasons. Firstly, when GPT-4 is asked to rate each feedback independently, it tends to give high ratings across the board. For instance, Alpaca receives an average score of 4.7 from GPT-4, suggesting that most feedback correctly assesses the response. However, human evaluators give Alpaca an average score of 2.91, indicating that a large portion of the feedback is incorrect. This discrepancy shows that the evaluation results from GPT-4 conflict with those from human evaluators. Secondly, GPT-4 seems to favor a specific format. According to human evaluators, Selfie often gives general suggestions, like adding more examples, even when the response already includes plenty of examples. In these cases, GPT-4 tends to give higher scores. However, human evaluators are not usually swayed by this pattern, resulting in a discrepancy where GPT-4 gives high scores to Selfie, while human evaluators give significantly lower scores. Lastly, we observe that the performance gap between these models is relatively small, making it challenging to distinguish between good and bad models. Overall, we suggest using GPT-4 for pairwise comparison rating, as it aligns better with human evaluation. Section Summary. The score distribution analysis reveals that Alpaca and Selfie often provide incorrect or vague feedback, while ChatGPT tends to have a correct judgment. Shepherd offers more helpful suggestions but also generates feedback with incorrect judgments. Likert score evaluation by GPT-4 is less reliable than human evaluation, as GPT-4 tends to give high ratings for all feedback and favors a specific format. The small performance gap between models makes it challenging to differentiate good and bad models, suggesting that pairwise comparison evaluation aligns better with human evaluation. Section. Limitation of GPT-4 evaluation. We've identified some limitations in the evaluation process of GPT-4. There are two main issues we've noticed. Firstly, GPT-4 sometimes fails to accurately assess feedback, even when the correct answer is given. This is shown in one of our tables. Secondly, GPT-4 seems to have a certain knowledge barrier that affects its scoring accuracy. This is evident in another table where a model named Shepherd correctly identifies an error in an answer, but GPT-4 rates it lower than other models that incorrectly perceive the answer as correct. We've also conducted an experiment to understand how much data is needed to build a good critique model. Our findings, illustrated in a figure, suggest that the quality of data is crucial. More high-quality data leads to a better critique model. We've found that our high-quality community data and human annotated data are more effective for building critique models than the larger amount of fine-tuning data used by a model called selfie. The evaluation of language generation models is a hot topic in research. Human evaluation, while reliable, is costly, domain-specific, and time-consuming. Existing automatic metrics, such as word overlap or embedding-based similarity with reference outputs, are not capable of detecting logical inconsistencies, factuality, or alignment with human judgment. Some recent studies have explored the use of language generation models for reference-free evaluation to address these issues. However, others have pointed out that these models can be biased, leading to unfair evaluations. Recent efforts to improve the performance of language generation models have explored a feedback and refinement approach. For example, Self-Improve uses high-confidence answers generated by a large language model for fine-tuning, which has shown to improve the model's general reasoning abilities. Other models, like Self-Refine and Critic, use a single language model for generation, feedback, and refinement. Selfie, on the other hand, builds a critique model by collecting generations, feedback, and revised generations from ChatGPT and fine-tuning llama models. Lastly, Self-Correct separates the generator from the corrector, demonstrating that generations can be improved even when the corrector is much smaller than the base generator. Section Summary. The evaluation of GPT-4 has two limitations. I. It fails to recognize correct feedback judgments, even when the correct answer is provided, and E. It exhibits a knowledge barrier that affects its ability to accurately score answers, as demonstrated by Shepherd identifying an error while other models perceive the answer as correct. Additionally, the study explores the impact of data quality on building a critique model, finding that high-quality community data and human annotated data are more useful than using a larger amount of fine-tuning data.